The Big Play Reflog Show is brought to you by ShackNews.com. Shack News, if you haven't checked out Shack News yet, what are you doing? They are the place for gaming news. They got all your gaming content needs, reviews, guides, they got it all. They had an incredible week last week leading up. First, they had Mike Tyson, Iron Mike. Go check out that interview on Shack News. Then they had the man, Ice-T, streaming video games with Shack News. That was phenomenal. And then they had Richard Sherman. Nick, did you meet Richard Sherman down at the Super Bowl? Was that year or no?
No, he wasn't in the one that I was at. No.
All right, well, go check out Shack News because they interviewed Richard Sherman. So if you like entertaining conversations, high-quality video game content, Shack News is the place for you to go this summer. Check them out on Twitter, Facebook, and Twitch, and most importantly, at shacknews.com. Go check them out, gamers.
Hi, everyone. Tim Kitzrow from NBA Jam and NFL Blitz. You're listening to the best podcast on the air, Boom Shakalaka.
Okay, do you need medical attention?
Yes.
What is wrong?
I don't know. I ain't no goddamn doctor.
Free Shakalaka. Reflog. It's the golfer backwards. Boom Shakalaka.
Welcome to the Big Play Reflog Show. Today is Monday, June 15th, 2020. I am your host, Big Play Dave, alongside my man, my buddy, Mr. Chris McNeil. How are you, sir?
Good, man. Good. We're less than a week away from Father's Day. Always a good time. So, feeling good. Feeling good. You do anything for Father's Day?
I don't even know what day it is, even though I just said it was the 15th. I don't know. I'm gonna get to hang out with.
Sunday.
I'm gonna get to hang out with my dad. Just came back from Hilton Head. He'd been down there for like 6 months. So
That's right.
First couple quarantine hangouts with the family. So that'll be good.
Very good.
Yeah. And no Bree tonight. She's home with strep throat. So we've got Nick Padone joining the show once again. Nick,
What's up, guys?
what's up, brother? How are you?
What's happening? I'm good. Good to talk to you guys.
Is that a color rush?
It is. It's all old school throwback color rush.
Yes, I love the quotes. Very narrow there. Well done. Well,
Yep. Still got the stripes. Still got the stripes.
That's right. That's awesome. All right, so we got a great show for you guys tonight. So tonight on the show, we're going to kick it off with Power Rank Monday. Cleveland athletes who were bright stars that burned out too soon. There's a few of them. Then we will get into our featured interview of the night. Former Browns running back, one of my favorite players of the Browns, coming back since '99. Madden cover boy of 2012, Peyton Hillis joining the show. Looking forward to that. After that, we'll talk all the Cleveland sports headlines, discussing Baker's protesting plans, Browns offer for Jadeveon Clowney, that one-year deal. Indians' first-round pick, there was a draft. Didn't watch it. I don't think anyone really watches it, but that's okay. He's off to a good start on social media. Then we'll talk 90s baseball in honor of last night's 30 for 30 Long Gone Summer, which Chris is very excited to talk about.
Slept through 2 hours of that last night.
We'll hit you with a couple Would You Rathers, and then we will give you our bold predictions for the week. Let's kick it off with Power Rank Monday.
It's time for Power Rank Monday.
All right, so Cleveland athletes who were bright stars here, but they burned out too soon, or as Chris likes to say, supernovas.
Well, we don't want to say one-hit wonders because we don't want to offend anyone, right?
Yeah, there you go. I think that's
We're trying
fair.
to put a nice spin on, a positive spin on things here on the show.
So people
right?
who were iconic here for a year and then they left. Or
Short
they
amount of
faded
time.
out.
That's right.
That's right. I'm going to kick it off with my number 3. William Green. 2002. Had an incredible year out of Boston College for us. I thought he was going to go for 1,500 yards that year. Still had a really good year, and then he fell down the stairs onto a steak knife, and the rest is history.
I know. How often does that happen? I'll tell you. You just fall down the stairs, bam, right on a steak knife. I hate to see that.
It happens. It happens. Then my number 2, going with our guest of the evening, Peyton Hillis, one of my favorite players, super iconic guy here in Cleveland. 2011, crushed it, went on the Madden cover. 2012, and then we'll get into the rest. Kind of took off. But that's all right. He was an incredible player here in Cleveland, Ohio. Can't wait to talk to him. And then my number 1, Grady Sizemore. He was here longer than I thought when I was looking this up. I mean, he was always injured. He only played 2 full seasons. I think it was 2006, 2007. Injuries upon injuries for that guy. Felt bad for him. All the ladies loved him in Cleveland, Ohio. I loved him as well. Thought he was going to be the next huge star. Didn't quite pan out.
You thought he was here for only a short time?
Well, no. I mean, I looked at it, and I didn't remember him playing that many games. He played way more many games. No, I mean, he played 2 full seasons, and then he had like 157, I think, one year, 140. So, I mean, I just kind of thought he was like 5, 7.
He wasn't one of those, had a cup of coffee here. Although he did have a cup of coffee, didn't he? That one photo
he did.
That has circulated widely on the internet.
Wow.
I forgot all about that.
Yeah. We have Grady's ladies out there right now Googling that picture.
Yes.
In mass.
Yes.
In mass.
Chris, what are your top 3 supernovas?
Okay, my number 3. Mike Napoli. Now, Napoli had a good career and had a solid career before he got to Cleveland. Yeah. But if you remember 2016, when that guy rode into town, we had Party at Napoli's by Nate Crow here on Twitter. Hipster Tito put together the shirts. We had a huge party. I mean, that whole summer was fun. It was like back to the 90s a little bit because you just caught that magic. Everybody embraced the Party at Napoli's thing. He was hitting dingers, hit like 35 that year. And, he seemed to really personify Cleveland. We always talk about these guys that do that. And he was one of those types. And it was like, man, he's just such a great spirit in the clubhouse. And just like that, he's gone, And then we brought him back at the end of his career, and he couldn't even bat 100. So that was the end of it for him. But, man, that was fun. That was fun for a year. I think, I was looking at it. Hipster Tito raised, and I'd forgotten what the number was, $200,000 for the local hospital. Yeah, through selling those shirts.
Oh my god!
Yeah, so Party at Napoli's. I still got the shirt, Dave.
You still see him around all the time. You still see him around everywhere.
So, hat tip to Hipster Tito on that. But my number 2.
Wait for it.
Phil Savage's boy he brought to town, Derek Anderson.
Oh.
Derek Anderson. I mean, he just had that magical season, 2007, right? We win 10 games that year, did not make the playoffs because Tom Brady pulled out of the Pro Bowl. He makes a Pro Bowl there. And then, of course, and throughout his career, he was always fighting for somebody to try and get the starting role with us. And ultimately, he lost that out to Brady Quinn, who has a connection to our guest tonight, ironically enough. Brady Anderson was Derek Anderson, also Brady Anderson, I was thinking about last night, the guy who had 50 home runs out of nowhere for the Orioles. Derek Anderson, I mean, he was the only semblance of a real quarterback we had in Cleveland since, Tim Couch gave us a few good games, essentially.
Yeah.
And then he was gone. And it was like an afterthought. Everybody's like, oh, of course he's going to move on because we have Brady Quinn. And we know how that one turned out.
That was a magical season.
It was. I'm describing everything as magical tonight, by the way. Speaking of magical, number 1. We'll go back to 2016 one more time. Andrew Miller. Andrew Miller, how about that? 2016, not so magical in 2017. But, I mean, he just took the whole team, put him on his shoulders. You knew when he was coming into the game, that was it. And Tito just throughout that playoff just rode him the entire time. And I know he got a little bit of criticism at the end because he rode him so much. But, I mean, what Andrew Miller did for us and that whole trade was I thought that was going to give us the championship. I really did. And I think a lot of people did. And it was just amazing what he was able to put together. And now he's with St. Louis, and he seems to have lost his stuff. So had some good times here in Cleveland.
I feel like that happens a lot with players that we move on from. Like we're upset about it at the time, or we don't sign them, or we trade them away. A lot of Cleveland Indians after they leave here aren't all that great.
Well, we used to have that with the Browns too. Guys we would think they're magical in like preseason. Josh Lentz, remember Josh Lentz, the receiver, and everybody like lost their mind because he had a good preseason. I mean, we love these guys, but Andrew Miller's different because he actually performed in the postseason and actually did something for us, and then fell off the earth. But yeah, we've had a few of these quote unquote one-hit wonders or supernovas, if you want to call them that.
Yeah, Andrew Miller, probably one of the best relievers of all time. In his prime. Nick, what do you got for us? Top 3 supernovas here.
For sure. Okay, so starting off with my number 3. I got Nick Swisher throwing it back.
That's crap. That is bull. Nick Swisher.
Throwing it back to
Let him
2015.
finish, Chris.
He was one of those. He was one of those guys, Chris. He was like your Bobby Bradley, right? We got him from the Yankees as a young, touted prospect. He started the whole Bro-Ohio thing, and then he couldn't catch up to the ball when he got up here.
The Ohio State marching band was the ones who recruited him.
We recruited him so hard. They were having a baby at the time, and we came out there with like a baby onesie with the Indians. We really put on a show for him to get him here, and it was a big deal. And oh my God, Bro-Ohio.
Yes,
I mean,
never forget.
All you heard was he's a great clubhouse guy because that's all he was. That's all he was. And even from the clubhouse, everybody in the clubhouse said, well, actually, you get kind of tired of that routine after a while if the guy's not performing.
A lot of high fives.
A lot of energy drinks.
Yeah.
All right, so my number 2. Possibly the greatest 58 seconds in Cleveland Cavaliers history. I had to go with Andrew Bogut's 2017 tenure with the Cavs. If you guys remember, at that time, David Griffin and the Cavs tried so hard to sign Andrew Bogut. He was the piece that was supposed to somehow get us over the Kevin Durant hump to get us into the NBA Finals and get a back-to-back championship ring. Obviously, we know how that turned out. He blew out his knee literally under a minute into his Cavs career. So I had to put him up on there, even though he wasn't really a star. He wasn't a supernova. He was supposed to be the one guy, and man, he barely even made it onto the court.
I don't think you understood what this activity was supposed to be, what this homework assignment was, Nick. So far,
it was supposed to be someone good in Cleveland.
Yeah. He didn't do anything. This list is pissing me off. All right, go to your number 1.
Just wait for his number 1.
My number 1's going to make you even more mad. Dwayne Bowe.
Get out of here.
2015, the Browns paid him $12.5 million, $9 million of which was fully guaranteed over 2 years, and he did absolutely nothing, despite everybody being so excited. We had finally a veteran receiver that was supposed to come in. He was supposed to be the Jarvis of the day, man. He had a great career with the Chiefs and then came here, and it all went to hell in a handbag.
But he pedaled about, 4 or 5 Tour de France's on the stationary bike while he was here. So that's pretty
true.
impressive on the side.
Yep, he owned Berea stationary bikes.
Yeah, he was Pelotonia before it was Pelotonia.
Yeah, he should have bought stock in Peloton before Peloton.
Peloton, yes.
Still my fantasy football name, somewhere over Dwayne Bowe.
Yes, that's very nice. Very nice.
He was a where were you moment. You think like,
oh yeah,
where were you 9/11? Where were you when Michael Jackson died? Where were you when Dwayne Bowe finally caught that first catch on the sideline? Man, it was rare.
Oh, that's hilarious.
What a waste of that whole
good
list.
Good list, Nick. Great
list. Three complete wastes of money. That was what that list was. Nick Swisher, Andrew Bogut, and Dwayne Bowe.
That's
very well done.
Well, let's move on and talk to a guy who we should have paid and kept around Cleveland a much, much longer time. And let's move into our featured interview of the week. So for this week's featured interview, we're here with two guys here, the host of Moving the Chains podcast, Keith Migra, and as well as Cleveland legend, cover of Madden 2012, one of my favorite Browns running backs of all time, Peyton Hillis. Peyton, we haven't heard from you here in Cleveland in quite some time. How's life in the CIA?
It's so sensitive that I don't even know that I'm in it. That's the funny part.
How you doing, brother? How's everything going?
I'm doing good, man. How are you? How are y'all?
I'm good. We're doing real well. So great to have you on. I want to talk about it right off the bat so you and Keith have started this podcast. Keith, how'd you guys kind of link up to do this?
Oh man, it's crazy. We were, I was just messaging him and I said, look, man, Cleveland actually does like you. And I think that if you did a podcast, we'd be able to kind of get the word out, bring you back to Cleveland, and it just kind of connected and clicked.
That's fantastic. Yeah, we're glad to hear you're coming back here and doing a lot of stuff. So Peyton, what's the biggest professional accomplishment for you? Was it getting on the cover of Madden with the help of Clevelanders, or your appearance on the Big Play Reflux show?
To be completely honest, neither. Honestly, looking back on it, there's nothing more grander in my career than being a Cleveland Brown. And the reason why I say that is just because when I look back on all of my playing career, the happiest I ever was, the best that I ever played, obviously, and where I thought was more home than even my home state, even where I played college ball, is Cleveland. People gave me more love there and more uplift than anybody else in my entire life, and I'm really appreciative for all of it.
So let me ask you about that real quick, Peyton, because you played here obviously in a time where Cleveland lost LeBron. You were definitely the lone star here in the city. What was Cleveland like towards you at that time? I remember being 10 years old with my mom driving around to every Dick's Sporting Goods in this city looking for your jersey to get for my dad for his birthday or Father's Day or something like that. What was that like for you at this time to be such a superstar here?
It was also surreal, and it was a period of my time where I was really enjoying football, enjoying life, and enjoying the city of Cleveland. And when I look back, it just flew by. But, I'd never noticed the stardom or anything else. And only reason why was on the Madden cover at all was because of the fans in Cleveland. And I know that. I know that they put me on there, and I was always appreciative for it.
Well, so Peyton, what was that like? So, I remember watching it. I think it was on ESPN, and I believe it was you there and Michael Vick, and I think it was Michael. Yeah. It was Michael Vick, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was the biggest name in the NFL, and we're like, Peyton Hillis is gonna win this. How incredible of a feeling was that? Were you sitting there on ESPN there's no way?
Yeah, even when they were first coming out with it and saying, this is going to be a contest and people are going to be voting on it, in the back of my head, I was always thinking, yeah, they're really going to put somebody else on here. And I always felt that they were. Until, I started knocking people off the board that I felt I shouldn't be knocking off. And, even 10 or 15 minutes before they announced who actually won, they told me, hey, you actually won this thing. And I was freaking out before they even said who won it. So it was all crazy.
Did you ever play Madden, as yourself?
I did play that game 3 times. Never played as myself.
Really? Okay. I was going to ask you.
3 times. My brother brought it down.
Okay.
And I did play it, but I didn't actually play as myself because I knew if I did, my brother would give me hell about it, so I didn't.
That's funny. So in Madden, you've got the truck stick and you've got the hurdle. 2 moves you used a ton in your Cleveland Browns playing days. If you could only use one, which would it be, truck stick or hurdle?
Definitely the hurdle, because I probably need to take a few hits off my career so I can go back and play.
Fair enough.
So Peyton, after the fans, you had this overwhelming support. The fans voted you on the cover. You had a huge support behind you. The following season, people started talking about the Madden curse, because first there was the strep throat, and then there were the reports about your agent maybe giving you some advice and maybe a schism in the locker room, and then you had the injury. Talk about going through that. And I know there was some backlash from the fans. What was your takeaway from everything going on that season?
We have a saying where I come from, just being snake bit, and it was just very unlucky. And a lot of things that happened, it was just very unfortunate, especially when it came to actually being sick and actually being injured. Those were all true. There was times where they would try to push me to hurt and come back, and I would want to come back, and I would re-injure it, and just re-injure my hamstring or whatever the case in my groin that year. But it was just all it just seemed like nothing went right. And everything I tried to do, nothing really mattered. And it just felt like, at that point, I just felt like the organization was trying to turn everybody against me, and maybe they were, maybe they weren't. It was just a bad place where I was at then.
Well, we were 4-12, so it wasn't the greatest place to be. But you look at that, and I heard you talking about like the contract negotiations. What was that process back? Because you've been on record saying that you wanted to stay here, you wanted a long-term deal here in Cleveland. What was the contract disputes, or what was that whole process like that following year? Because
that was the year that the lockout happened. And as soon as even before that year, I remember the last 3 games of 2010, Holmgren met me downtown. I forgot what restaurant we were at. And he was just telling me, hey, we're trying to sign you right now. And actually, contract talks were going on later part of that year. And then the lockout happened. And everything just shut down there for a while. And when I got back, he really didn't say much to me. He was like, it's fine, let's go out and play. But it just kept on, things kept on coming out in the media. Peyton's not accepting contracts when they never even presented me with one contract. And so I was just like, I'm not going to pay any mind to that. I'm just going to keep on playing. And then it just seemed to blow up from there.
So within all of that, one of the most bizarre, Cleveland sports stories that we have to name, that we kind of joked with you a little bit about at the beginning of the interview, came the CIA stuff, right? That comes in an Adam Schefter report.
Stupidest. It's not the stupidest thing you've ever heard. And how people could actually believe it is beyond me.
And you declined it at the time.
God.
And you declined it at the time, and it still went on. So, how do you think that all that even came about?
If you're telling me, Adam Schefter really did report that, how in the world could he possibly, be on TV and, look at a straight face and say that? That is beyond me. Beyond me.
Yeah, he wrote it, too. It's still on ESPN.com. It's still out there.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. That makes me so mad even thinking about that.
We got you going.
It's the internet, man. It's the internet.
No, I get it. No, I get that.
Ultimately, then, do you, being a cover guy for Madden, do you believe in the Madden curse?
To tell you the honest truth, I don't know. I would say yes and no, just because, I have bad luck, but my luck ain't that freaking bad what happened. And, I just don't even know how to really put it, really. Honest to God, it was just so crazy what went on that year, and, I had no control over it. And it just seemed like everywhere which way I turned, somebody hit me with something else, kind of like being in the freaking CIA. Just crap, man. God.
So let's rewind to the year that was phenomenal here in Cleveland. Do you have a favorite memory of that year? A specific hurdle or a specific stiff arm to a Patriots player?
No, honestly, the Patriots game was probably the most real to me.
Yeah.
Of that year. That was, coming off a 2-week bye and really being prepared for them and coming in, and that was the day when nothing actually went wrong. Everything went the way we thought it would, and it was great just beating the hell out of the Patriots.
Get me pumped up just hearing that. I love it.
So Peyton, Nick Chubb is obviously coming off a great season here with the Browns. What do you, as a former running back, what do you see in a guy like that, and what do you expect him to do this season? And the three of us sitting at this desk right here are definitely asking for our fantasy team.
Honestly, I mean, Nick Chubb's a real deal. I mean, he has actually progressed each year he's been there. And last year, I mean, he was off the chain. I mean, I know you have an outstanding running offensive line there in Cleveland right now, and I know the passing game needs to connect and come on a little bit more, but I don't see why he could not be with that offensive line you got there now, why he could not be a Pro Bowler for 4 or 5 years to come. It just seems right to me.
So speaking of 3 to 5 years to come, that eventually we're going to have to get into the contract stuff with Nick Chubb. Do you think that's definitely something the Browns should pursue then?
You know, to me, I'm a simple guy. If you're helping my ball club win and I like you around, I'm going to sign you. I mean, it's just plain and simple. I'm not too complicated about it. I mean, the organization and the ownership has changed since my time there for sure. And it seems like, you know, last year they made a lot of decisions trying to make y'all a great offensive team. And you know, I know it didn't really come to plan that they wanted to, but at least they made strides to try to make it happen. And you know, what I think with the offensive skill set that y'all got there now, I just don't.
Uh-oh.
That was it.
That was it.
That was it.
The call dropped, it looked like. Let's see.
Gone too soon once again. The second time.
Oh no, Peyton. Well, we had 2011 Peyton on, so that was perfect. So we'll see. We'll see if they call back.
I heard he had an interview with the CIA.
I like that he had fun with that one. So, dude, I mean, you think about that year for 2012. That was like so many wild stories just built up week after week, and I think it started with that Dolphins game.
2012. You think about every season with the Cleveland Browns. I mean, just pick one at random. I mean, it's amazing what happens every single season with them. But yeah, and especially for Peyton Hillis, he became the focus and the focal point of everything. So, and I know. He came up and he said it. He's a simple guy, you know. He just wants to play ball, and I think that getting caught up in all that was probably really difficult on him.
I don't think the holdout helped either, guys. He brought that up, how the whole lockout, the whole lockout situation kind of threw a wrench in all the contract negotiations that were happening really early on, and I think that's something that, you know, really just messed up his time here. Like you said, everything went wrong all at once.
Yeah, that's a good
point. Is he lost, or are we getting him back on? I'd love to ask him about Stefanski, because Stefanski, you know, loves fullbacks, loves the bigger backs, and that is right up that guy, Peyton Hillis's, you know, alley. So if we can get him back to ask a couple of questions about Kevin Stefanski and what he's going to do for the offense, that would be fantastic.
Yep, let's get him back. Let's see here. All right, I'm gonna call. I'll call you guys right back. I'm gonna get him on the line, and then we'll be right back.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
Thank you for calling Collins Studios host. Enter your 6-digit PIN number. Welcome, host. You are now in the host room and can manage your callers from the call
All right, we are almost back here. Not sure.
Are we on the air right now?
Oh, we are. Yes, absolutely. We're on the air.
Fantastic.
Technical difficulties, maybe. Who knows exactly what happened? We're going to get Peyton Hillis back here in just 1 second.
I can hear myself twice.
Perfect.
Just saying. You know, this never happens on shows when we don't have a guest.
Right.
Yeah.
And usually, you know, the larger the guest, the more problems we're going to have. Like Frank Caliendo, all kinds of problems.
Dude, Frank Caliendo.
You have a player on, you're going to have issues. You know, you get kind of a local sports writer or a guy from Twitter, you're not going to have as many issues. We'll always have issues. I mean, that's just kind of what we do.
Our best shows are always with Joe Noga.
We get Joe. Joe's a professional. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to play this thing.
That's right. All right, let's see.
The Joe Noga one was good. I'm trying to think of other ones that have gone off like without a hitch.
That was it. That's it. Don't think too hard, man.
That was it.
I know, like.
I mean, we've had good runs within shows of like 10 minutes. I would say 10, 15.
Oh yeah, that's where we peak, and like 8 to 10 minutes. We should do an 8 to 10 minute show.
We hit the sponsor spots like money, and then everything else not so much.
And
well,
even
most
then,
people
sometimes you forget
spots.
Cleveland. Yeah.
Unless I forget. Our
No,
friends at
I
Cleveland.
think we've got him back, guys. Do we have you back here?
You have me back.
Oh no, they're not back.
Uh-oh.
Here we go. They're coming in right now.
Yeah.
All right, so we are going to be joined again by Keith and Peyton Hillis.
Fantastic.
Here we go.
No need for introductions.
Should we just do
He needs no introduction.
the transition music back?
Yeah, hit it one more time.
2-for-1 deal on Peyton Hillis.
All right, do we have you back?
We do.
Look at that.
Peyton Hillis.
Always something. Peyton, as you enter the podcast world, you will learn this. There's always something going on with technical difficulties.
You know, I was pretty upset. I thought the CIA cut me off there before. I was like, this crap never ends.
Oh, that's fantastic. So, guys, what else do we want to cover with Peyton
We want
Hillis?
to talk a little bit about Stefanski. You know, with Kevin Stefanski taking over the team the off season, obviously the new head coach. But he's got to focus on really building up the O-line, which is great. Tight ends, fullbacks. What do you think about everything you've seen, what he did up in Minnesota? What do you expect him to do here? What do you think that plan looks like, and what's your opinion on that plan?
You know, he does have an unorthodox game plan, offensive game plan coming. And, you know, the way the past two head coaches have came about here the past couple of years, he has a lot of work ahead of him. You know, I don't know exactly why things happened the way they did, but I'm hoping that he can come in there and, you know, create a winner. I really do.
So with the addition of Andy Janovich, we also had another fullback, Johnny Stanton, on the show in the past. What are your kind of thoughts on what those two players could provide with a run game of Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, as well as providing a little bit of additional help for Baker?
You know, I've always thought that if you really do want a phenomenal running game, you have to have a great fullback. And as you looked over the years in the NFL, especially, you know, especially coming back from Terrell Owens and Smith, they'll all tell you. And, you know, it's that lead blocker in front of you. If you have a good one, and, you know, it's invaluable as a halfback. And number two, you know, I think with the offensive line that they got there now, you know, I think that if everybody stays unselfish, and it seems like Nick Chubb is very unselfish, but it seems like, you know, if they can really get their passing game going, man, I just don't see how too many people in this division can stop them. I just can't.
So
what do you think about
most
that
people
pass?
think that.
Yeah, so you look at talking about the passing game, you've got obviously Baker Mayfield here. How do you think he's going to be looking as he heads into this third year? You know, rookie year, fantastic. Second year, as you mentioned, snake bitten. Third year with this team, he's got all the weapons. What do you kind of expect out of him?
You know, I don't know. I mean, last year people say he didn't have a great year, but I mean, tell you the truth, ever since he's been there, he's been there 3 years and had 3 different head coaches, 3 different schemes to learn. And, I don't know if it was really a he said, she said type of thing with the coaching staff and him, but, he's really a wild card to me. He seems to have the attitude and the charisma like Brett Favre. Go out there and he can make plays for you, and he can open up the field if you give him a chance. I see him as a tremendous talent. I just worry about, maybe the people that they put around him, and if he can actually mingle with the coaching staff that's there and they can actually bring out the best in him. I'm actually very interested in that. Because he definitely has the skill set and the talent to play this game at a high level. And that, I think that's very predominantly the opinion of everybody that's seen the kid play.
Yeah, so, I'm sure you're going to be talking about that over the next many, many weeks on your guys' podcast. Keith, let's bring you back in here. Where can you find the podcast? What's it called? Where's it going to be streamed? And anything you want to plug about Moving the Chains?
Oh, man, so it's going to be on – right now we're doing Facebook Live. It just got approved on iTunes and Stitcher and Breaker and all the major podcast platforms. So we're going to be on there and for the replays and stuff. But the live show is going to be on Moving the Chains on Facebook. So check it out, like it. We do the live show right there. A lot of fan interaction. And we have a huge guest coming on Tuesday from the Indians, so that's going to be awesome. It's a good show. It's fan-based. It's all about – When me and Hillis started talking, he said he really, really, really wanted to get the point across that he loved Cleveland, and this is this was his home. This is his home, and that's what we kind of brought back as we're doing the show. So it's mainly fan-driven, and it's we'll be taking calls and stuff like that, and it's fantastic to, obviously sit in the co-pilot seat with Hillis, and I mean it's a Cleveland fan's dream come true, right? I just got lucky. I mean that's all I am, is just a Cleveland fan that sat behind a microphone long enough,
And Peyton, so you getting into the podcast game up here in Cleveland. How you liking it so far? I know you only got one show under the belt, but you've got one tomorrow with Oscar Mercado. That's going to be fantastic. How you liking it so far?
Man, I'm really enjoying it. I like he said, I enjoy being back home. I mean, it's home for me. And to talk about hometown sports, I mean, that's all I ever dreamed about doing. And hopefully we can get a little support from the fan base, and hopefully we can make this out to be something great.
I love it. Peyton Hillis, Keith Migra, we appreciate the time. Sorry for a little snafu intermission in this this interview, but fantastic stuff. And we'll talk to you guys both real soon. Appreciate it.
Hey, and Peyton,
Chris has one more for you.
I appreciate you unblocking me on Twitter. I appreciate that. You finally unblocked.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna throw this out there. I have not once actually been on that Twitter account. I don't even know what it looks like. Honestly, only time I've been on there is the past 2 weeks, and before that I had another guy doing it because I'm not very good at technology, and everybody would always say that. Dude, would you block me? I was like, I don't know. I didn't do anything.
You had the same person who was running Ben Roethlisberger's account then. Block everybody.
Oh, that's fantastic. Peyton, we appreciate it, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Peyton.
Thanks, Keith.
All right, man. Y'all take care.
You too. Yeah. Peyton Hillis and Keith Migra. Great stuff out of them. Yeah, that was funny.
It was really good. That was really good.
He's such a good dude.
And I went in, Dave, and you know the way I went in. I went in that I was going to just pepper him with all kinds of things about that season after the Madden cover. But, he came across as genuine to me. He came across as genuine and somebody who really cares. And I really like what he had to say, and he seems like a really good dude. So, Peyton, thanks for coming on, man. Thanks for unblocking Reflog.
You wouldn't have said that if he didn't unblock you. But Chris, I mean, so you were like me. You were a big Peyton Hillis fan, obviously, in 2011. And I remember.
How could you not like him?
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
He was the type of guy, you give him the ball, he's going to just mow over people, or he'll jump over him, which was just fantastic.
Yep.
I mean, he just kind of embodied that tough, hard-nosed football in Cleveland. So you love the guy, and then you hate to see the way it ended. And it just seemed just so squirrely, and it was like, ugh. And that's what I thought we would really get out of him today, and it wasn't. It seemed like he had a pretty rational, reason for the way things went down there. I think he did. He was a little snake bit. I think he probably made some bad decisions. I'm not going to take all the onus off of him. But at the same time, it's hard not to like the guy. It really is after talking to him.
Yeah, and how much better do you feel that now you know Peyton Hillis did not actually block you?
Not at all. I was actually hoping that he had personally blocked me. That would have been much better if he would have been like, yeah, I remember after that Miami game, you
didn't
had
I
this
call
one
that?
tweet.
Didn't I
You
call
called it.
that
You called
earlier
it
today. Yeah.
That's funny. That's so funny. All right, Peyton, really appreciate the time. That was fantastic. Let's move into some Cleveland headlines. Talk about what's going on here in Cleveland, Ohio.
Well, Dave, unbeknownst to you, until I told you at the beginning of this podcast, Father's Day is right around the corner, and Cleveland Clothing Company is here to help you find the perfect gift for your dad. Check out the Father's Day collection, which includes their World's Greatest Cleveland Dad t-shirt and their Cle Dad hats. You can visit any one of their locations, like downtown on East 4th, the Summit Mall in Akron, in Shaker Heights, or right here by the Big Play Studio in Crocker Park. As always, you can check them out online at clevelandclothingco.com. And remember, Dave, use our promo code BIGPLAY20 where you get 20% off all of your purchases.
That's right. Go support them. Cleveland Clothing Company. All right, so let's start off with this one. So we've got Baker Mayfield. Quiet off season overall. I think we're all pretty happy with that. Then he got back into the news this week, stating he's going to be kneeling for the national anthem for this season. Hot debate, I guess, on Twitter, if you want to call it that. Do you think this is a big deal football-wise? Padone, what do you think?
No, I don't think it's a big deal at all. And the reason why is because, if anything, I feel like the team is going to rally around him. We already saw that, Mack Wilson is kind of the Browns Twitter authority, if you want to say that. Like, whenever something Browns related happens, Mack Wilson is the first one to take to Twitter, and he already tweeted a bunch of "that's my quarterback" and pictures of Baker. So I feel like, if anything, it's going to be a good thing football wise, and everybody else is going to take a knee too. It's kind of going to be a unified thing that they find a way to put together this year, in my opinion. So I don't have any issue with it at all, and if anything, I think it's going to be nothing but good for the team.
I just like the fact that, remember back when all this stuff started, Jerry Jones stood up and said, you know what? I'm going to go out there. I'm going to lock arms with all the players. We're going to kneel. That's going to be the end of this. And I know that's the way Jerry Jones, with his huge ego, he thought that he was going to go out there and he was going to end this whole business, right? And it didn't end. And I just love the fact when guys like that get their comeuppance, when they think, I'm going to just be able to outthink the entire room, the entire nation. I'm going to go out there. Just everybody step aside. Let Jared take care of this right now. And he wasn't able to do it, right? I love it.
No.
And and the NFL has just handled this so poorly the entire way. I'm behind Baker. I like what he's doing here. I'm not going to get into the politics of everything that's going on, but there's obviously some problems in this country that need to be solved. And these things in little ways start to add up. And we're starting to see some of those returns right now. So I like that.
Yeah, and you've got peaceful protesting, and it's going to keep the momentum going. So many times, and Chris, you know this better than anyone, on social media, there will be a big uproar or there'll be a ton of support for something, and then it just kind of fades off, at least on social media. I think this is going to keep that conversation going for a lot of Americans, keep everyone together, and this time around, there's a heck of a lot more people on the side of kneeling, on the side of just equality in general. So I think this is going to be a really good thing for the NFL. And I have to address one other thing. People were saying, the people who don't agree with it were talking about, Case Keenum should be the quarterback. Case Keenum's going to kneel with Baker Mayfield. I don't see that changing. And good for both of them. and I still love Case Keenum. But
yeah, he's
just
your guy.
just wanted to throw that out there because I love Case Keenum, but that's not the reason why.
You work him into every show. Even after he's gone from the Browns, you're going to work him into every show.
If this season goes awry, I'm so afraid of what's going to come of Dave. Like with the Case Keenum stuff, I'm so afraid.
I love Baker. I love Case Keenum. There's nothing wrong with that. Do we still have Garrett Gilbert?
It's like your kids. It's just different.
Yeah.
You know, you love them both, but they're just in a different way, right?
Yep, that's right. All right, let's talk about some rumors for the Cleveland Browns because Jadeveon Clowney, 1-year offer. Padone, we don't have the toaster here, so we got to come up with the next best thing. That would be insider Nick Padone. No offense there. What are you hearing about this contract? What was it, $15 million with Jadeveon Clowney possibility?
I just want to defund all the Jadeveon Clowney rumors because the only person that knows anything about what Jadeveon Clowney is going to do is Jadeveon Clowney. There's been a bunch of hush-hush stuff that he kind of doesn't want to come here. You know, the Browns have definitely offered him the most amount of money. Again, it comes out today, 1 year, $15 million. The Titans aren't willing to touch that. Another team, the Ravens aren't willing to touch that. The Seahawks aren't willing to touch that. Yeah, it's just going to go on forever, I feel like, and it's maddening. I just want it to end.
Don't they have the same agent, though? Isn't it Myles Garrett's agent?
They do, and that's what makes me worried because I want to avoid this headache in 2 years when it's Myles Garrett's turn. So if anything, I hope this deal gets done just so we could make this lunatic agent happy and make him go away come Myles Garrett time because they're already saying that that's starting to be in the works.
Why can't we sign them both at the same time?
That's what I'm saying, and that's kind of what it seemed like it was heading towards over the weekend, how they were saying, you know, I forget who came out. Maybe Jeremy Fowler came out and said that, you know, the Browns and Myles are still working towards a contract extension. Obviously, that would be 2 years early than when we would have to when Myles is an unrestricted free agent in 2022. So, yeah, I'd like them to get out of the Myles Garrett thing. But with the Clowney thing, I just don't see an urgent need for it to get done. You drafted help on the defensive line. You added help in free agency with Andrew Billings at defensive tackle. And Olivier Vernon was hurt all year last year with Steve Wilkes, and his defense fell apart when Myles was hurt anyways. I kind of want to give give Vernon a second shot. That's the pool that I'm in.
I completely forgot he was still on the team.
Well, there was talk about getting rid of him.
Oh, yeah, we went over a bunch of rumors with that. Chris, what do you think about that? How do you feel about Clowney and Myles Garrett?
I mean, that would be fantastic in my mind. Right? What am I going to turn that down? I mean, I love that. We've got all kinds of cap space. It would be a great signing. But I don't like the fact that we're going through this whole long, drawn-out negotiation with the Browns. And it seems like the Browns have been in the right, and he's just – you know, him and his agent are just being impossible here. So that concerns me because just like we just had Peyton Hillis on, you know, all kinds of clouds and all kinds of things come out. And ultimately it can affect you, I believe, on the field. If you have this string along for too long and the rumors get out there, you don't actually like Cleveland. So just get this thing done. Get this guy in camp. Get this guy in a Cleveland Browns jersey and have him and Myles just go to town on some quarterbacks, including Big Ben next season.
That would be fantastic. So so this is completely unrelated. I have an old iPhone that I lost a long time ago, and I gave it to my 6-year-old. And we just found it. He just charged it, and he's now trying to FaceTime me. And I keep hitting decline. He just keeps trying to FaceTime me. So, if you
quick story on that. So one of my kids' buddies, he's got an iPad here at the house, and his buddy will try and FaceTime him, and his buddy is relentless. He will try and FaceTime like 20 times in a row. I have to keep hitting decline. I've had the conversation with my son so many times. Yeah, it's a sore topic here in the McNeil household, Dave.
Yeah, same here.
You got to answer the phone and tell the kid, hey, man, quit calling this thing. It keeps ringing.
Just totally freak out on him. You know, like a 40-year-old guy answering, hey, kid.
Well, that's what it's like now in quarantine with the kids not seeing anyone. They just play a bunch of Fortnite together now, and they're on like I don't know what it is, like Facebook Messenger for kids or something. Chris, do you know about this? Your kids are older now, so they probably don't need it. But every time their friends want to video chat them, it goes to my phone, and I just keep hitting decline. They keep showing up. So you, Chris, you mentioned something that's impossible. Let's transition into the MLB.
Wow.
More good news.
Yeah, because the MLB draft took place this week. Let's go positive first.
Okay.
The Cleveland Indians selected high school shortstop Carson Tucker with their first-round pick. Cleveland Twitter detectives discovered 2 interesting tweets from Carson. Says Lindor's the GOAT back in 2016. And after the Indians-Cubs Game 7, he said the rain delay killed the momentum. Can you guys think of any other player coming in to the Cleveland Indians organization who gets it more than this guy?
Nick Swisher.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
There's the death.
That's all you need to say.
There's the death knell for poor Carson Tucker.
Oh man, that's fun. I mean, when that came out, he was 14. 14 years old on Twitter.
I didn't even realize. I was retweeting a 14-year-old. That's great. I didn't even think about it. I thought it was like in the last year or something. I didn't realize he was 14.
How funny is that? Chris, sometimes I think we forget how old we are because like I was talking to Nick today and I was typing in his Twitter handle and I typed in the wrong one. And I was like, this looks like Nick. And it was Nick's Twitter from 6th grade that got hacked.
Oh, that's fantastic.
It was like, just passed my history test. # swag. # baller.
Baller.
It was like a lame Kyrie quote in my bio.
Oh, dude, that killed me. That was fun.
Yeah, that's been deactivated.
What's the handle?
Did you? Oh, you got rid of it completely. Did you look through the
people
tweets?
Need to see this goal.
Did you at least look through the tweets before you got rid of it?
I did. There wasn't many. There was only like 20 on there, and then the bots got me. Trying to sell people fake Ray-Bans.
One of them was, I hope someday to be on a podcast with Reflog.
Yes. Please retweet. Please retweet. So let's...
Yes. They were all tweets at me to retweet.
All right, let's talk the MLB, the ugly part of the MLB that's right now with Rob Manfred. All the players are attacking him. It doesn't seem like baseball's going to be around this year. Nick, any thoughts?
Not so fast, my friend.
Well, yeah,
Not
it changes
so
every
fast.
2
They're
days.
still-
But you can't
That's
trust
right.
Rob Manfred. Sounds like a political ad. You just can't trust Rob Manfred.
That's absolutely true. They're both posturing. I mean, both sides are posturing. They're really, really hard. And I'm sick of both sides. I mean, Rob Manfred's getting the load of the crap today, and rightfully so. But tomorrow will be more on the players. Then he'll be back on. Just play baseball. Just play baseball. Like, if baseball comes out with any commercials after this about how they were there for the fans, or they really care about the fans, or do their fan appreciation night, you know what? When we're in the middle of COVID, we're in the middle of unrest at political level that we haven't seen in this country in years, and then you can't play a freaking game? Come on. Don't even try that. Don't even try that. I'm sick of both sides. I'm sorry. It just drives me nuts.
It's millionaires arguing with billionaires, guys, and all while we're in a public health pandemic crisis. We have the Chris McNeils and the Daves of the world strapping up their boots to go to work every day. When they come home, there's nothing even on TV to watch just because these, big wig commissioners can't get their acts together and can't figure out how to do this. Baseball is the only sport where you could really socially distance the only team sport where you could really socially distance as is. So if basketball and football somehow pull this off, it is going to leave a big black eye on this whole COVID sport return. And I know there's a thing on ESPN right now that Rob Manfred has to be on with all the other commissioners of football, of basketball, of hockey, and of golf that actually have plans to return. And I hope he sits there and he hears the music, because this is just an awful look for him.
So there's a petition, one of those change.com or change.org probably because it's an organization. They're looking for 1 million signatures to get him to resign. Nick, do you think there's any chance that could happen?
No, I once started at change.org my sophomore year of high school, if we want to talk about old Padone tweets.
Was that to have Chris retweet you?
No, I didn't have Chris retweet that one. We switched over to this stupid, team math thing, and where you have to sit in groups, and it was like a charity event. So dumb kids like me were going off of the smart kids tests, but then you still had individual tests and team tests. It was a whole mess and everybody hated it. So I started a petition to get rid of it, and then the principal called my house, and it was a big mess. So no, change.org typically does nothing, and I feel like even if it does get 1 million signatures, Rob Manfred is doing just fine, and he's not going to resign.
Rob Manfred works for the owners. I mean, he works for the owners, and he's doing just fine. Just the same thing as Goodell. Those guys don't care.
All right, Chris, one more in the Cleveland headlines because I know you watched it. The special on Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire. Is it worth watching? I haven't watched it yet. I was hoping maybe it'd be a little bit reminiscent of the good old days because that was one of the most fun seasons of baseball to watch. Being in the moment, does it do it any justice?
It was so exciting to live through that. I remember exactly where I was at when McGwire hit the home run to break Maris's record. I was in my dorm room, actually at the Lambda Chi house. As a Lambda Chi had already moved in. It was my sophomore year there at Miami. And I was standing in my room and I heard him hit it. Or I watched him hit it on TV, and one of my buddies, Shaggy, we called him Shaggy because he looks like Shaggy from Scooby-Doo. He was from St. Louis and a huge Cardinals fan, so he was just running up and down the hall, probably drunk off his ass because he normally was, yelling about this home run. So I remember it so fondly, and it was just so much fun, and that's why this special was so bad. Just so bad because it was not exciting at all. And they screwed up some of the graphics. They had graphics from the 2000s that were supposed to be graphics from back then. I mean, you could tell that they just sloppily put this thing together. And it was like more of a documentary about it rather than, a docudrama, which is what you saw more with the Michael Jordan special, The Last Dance. And I really was hoping this would capture some of the same thing. With the Jordan thing, you had the music. You really felt it was a period piece. This thing just felt like you were going through reading the box scores. I mean, it was bad, God. Man. It was bad. Do not watch it unless you're really bored or really need to get to sleep.
Is it just a 60-minute one, or is it like a series like Jordan?
No, it's 2 hours.
2 hours. All right, you saved me 2 hours. Thank you.
Yeah, I had to invest 2 hours last night into that bad boy.
It's time for Would You Rather. Nick, I'm going to ask you this one. Would you rather have the all-time home run record with an asterisk or be a first ballot Hall of Famer?
Ooh. Give me the home run record.
Yeah?
Because I don't think with pitchers now, I don't think anybody's going to touch that. And even if it does have an asterisk by it, I think that's just super cool. That's I know some people will say, oh, well, pitching the perfect game is the coolest part of baseball. But to me, hitting home runs is the coolest part of baseball. If you're standing in Progressive Field and somebody hits a home run, everybody's high-fiving each other, the fireworks go off. Or if you see Corey Kluber throw 3 strikeouts, you kind of get a little golf clap, and then that's it, and they all go back to the dugout. Home runs are the coolest, so give me the home run title.
Dude, one of the first times we met, we went to the home run derby together, the All-Star Weekend.
Exactly, and that was just sick.
Dingers upon dingers.
Yeah, it was like snowing baseballs where we were standing.
God, that was fun.
We were in the perfect spot.
We really were.
I'll say that forever. We were in the perfect spot.
All right, Chris, I've got one for you. Would you rather have to shop for a Father's Day gift or a Mother's Day gift?
Father's Day gift, because you can miss on Father's Day gifts. You cannot miss on Mother's Day gifts. You don't want to do that. Like, I can make a mistake, and I can always just default to, like, golf balls or a golf shirt for my dad. That's pretty easy. With moms, you got to make sure you get the appropriate level of thought. And so it takes a little bit more time.
Handmade card?
Handmade card. Well, see,
from the kids.
The same thing I do. Yeah, the kids do.
Yep.
That's one of the best perks you have as a dad. So you're going to have the kids do all the arts and crafts stuff. And it always comes off, you forgot to get a card, whip out a piece of paper, have them, whip out something really quick. You're done. And they love it. Mom, Dad, they love it. Oh, it's so thoughtful. It came from the grandkids. You could buy a $10 card from Hallmark, and they wouldn't care half as much as that thing that the kids just put together in less than a minute.
Yeah, you got 3 lines on a piece of paper that's like barely folded. They're like, oh, that's so sweet. We literally made that while you were walking in the door.
This is going right up on the fridge. Chris, we're going to take down this homework from you from 20 years ago, and we're going to put this right here. Your diploma, you don't need that. That's coming down. We're going to just frame this and put it up on the wall.
That's right. Bold prediction time.
Bold predictions.
All right, bold prediction time. Chris, do you have a bold prediction for us?
Well, let's see. Last week I said the NHL wasn't going to start until August. And it looks like I'm going to be wrong on that as of right now.
You still have time.
What's that?
You still have time.
I still have time. Yeah, as it is with all these sports. And boy, with the way that these players are testing positive for COVID, who knows what's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
But my bold prediction is going to be that the Cleveland Browns are going to sign Jadeveon Clowney to a deal by this time next week. Book it, take it to the bank.
Wow. I like
How about
that.
that?
Nick
Coming out
doesn't
strong.
Nick doesn't like it, but I like it. Nick.
No,
bold,
I don't mind it. But
What, you don't like talent?
Bold prediction.
no, I like it. Bold prediction. Geez, I don't know. Scottish Hammer fake punt. No,
Get
just
out of
kidding.
here.
Just kidding.
Maybe on Twitter. He's all over it.
Yeah, he is all over it. My bold prediction is that the Cavs will continue to make some news. They made some news that they're interested in signing Derrick Jones Jr. from the Heat, who won the dunk contest. And obviously nothing NBA related could come of right now. But I feel like we've heard the Tristan news that he might come back, the Derrick Jones Jr. news. I feel like we'll hear one more of a big name guy that is interested in coming to Cleveland, or that the Cavs have some sort of interest in.
Ooh, very good. A little Cavs news in here. I like it. Well
That's what
done.
everyone's looking for, Dave.
That's right.
Cavs.
Cavs news. Cavs news.
Giannis to Cleveland.
Success.
He's coming.
There we go.
That's the boldest prediction we've ever had on these airways.
All right, my bold prediction is this is not the last time that we've talked to Peyton Hillis on the Big Play Reflux show.
Oh.
Bold prediction. Peyton Hillis is sticking around. All right. Thanks for tuning in to the Big Play Reflux show. We will see you guys next week at 9 p.m. Huge shout out to Peyton Hillis and Keith Meiger. Go check out their podcast on Facebook tomorrow, talking all Cleveland sports. Huge shout out to ShaqNews.com. If you haven't, go check them out. They had a hell of a week with Ice-T, Richard Sherman, streaming Shaq News E4. That was incredible stuff. And then, yeah, looking forward to another week in quarantine, guys. Let's go. See you next
Happy
week.
Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day.
Hi, everyone. Tim Kinzer from NBA Jam and NFL Blitz. You're listening to the best podcast on the air, Boom Shakalaka.
Okay, do you need medical attention?
Yeah.
What is wrong?
I don't know. I ain't no goddamn doctor.
Free Shakalaka.